Well, it's all over. Your LA Clippers, my LA Clippers, have had their season ended in a Game 7 in Denver. But a loss was one thing. It wasn't even close. I'm going to be talking about how the season ended in such miserable fashion on today's Locked On Cancun Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, been a Clipper fan for 20 years, been covering the team for 5 years on my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, and 3 years right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure you subscribe to both channels on YouTube, and of course, you can listen wherever you get your podcasts. Clipper Nation, it is a sad day. It is a day in which I have to admit that I was wrong about this series. We have lost in 7 games to the Denver Nuggets. There is a reason why I said, and so many Clipper fans said Clips in 6. We did not want to put ourselves in a position to go into the altitude for a Game 7, and boy, it was not close. 120 to 101. Before I get to anything about the game and how much of a joke it was, how much blame should our stars get, and of course, the role players and the coach. Spoiler alert, I am not going to be talking about what we can do to this roster next season, what direction I think we should go in. We have the rest of summer to talk about that. So I will be really talking just about Game 7 and how we lost this series in Game 7. And we will have the rest of the week to talk about why we lost this series, what we can do better, and the rest of the summer to get in depth on that. I will also be releasing a tell-all video at the end of the season on my personal channel, so make sure to check that out. And I also want to thank all the Nuggets fans and Matt Moore, Swipa, and Ryan on the other side. Congratulations to the series win. Totally well-deserved. It was an absolute banger of a series, and I think basketball fans enjoyed it everywhere. But unfortunately, Clipper Nation, it was not what it was supposed to be for us. And I think my biggest first takeaway is when you get to a Game 7 on the road, you have already put yourself in a bad position. One of my basketball convictions is if you are a road team in a Game 7, don't be mad that you lost that Game 7. Be mad that you got there. And in our case, we had a 2-1 lead. We took home court advantage again. Took home court advantage away from them. We honestly could have won both games in Denver to begin the series. And then Game 4 was the one we dropped the ball. We didn't show up till the fourth quarter. Denver just played with more desperation. And that Aaron Gordon alley-oop changed the entire series. And we didn't come out with the right intensity in Games 5 or 7, quite frankly. But in this game, we played well in the first quarter. Ty Lue went with Derrick Jones Jr. starting instead of Chris Dunn. And I can't lie, I thought it should have been Nico Batum just because of his three-point shooting ability. But I know what Ty's rationale was, is having Derrick Jones Jr. He's a lob threat. He is better in the short roll situations. When Nico Batum is setting the screen, he's usually just picking and popping for 3, whereas Derrick Jones Jr. can get in that short roll and try to dunk on someone type of deal. Also putting a little bit more length on Jamal Murray to begin the game because, as good of a defender as Chris Dunn is, I talked about it in Game 5. When Jamal Murray's on, he's just hitting he's unguardable. He's hitting shots that are extremely tough to stop. But the Nuggets strategy very clearly was to leave Derrick Jones Jr. open, whether it be the short roll or his open shots in the corner, and we just could not make our open threes. The whole role players play better at home thing, that was completely proven correct in this game. We were 8 for 27 from deep, which is only 30%, and the Denver Nuggets were 38% from deep. Russell Westbrook yet again had a 50% shooting game from the three-point line, 2 for 4 from deep. I'll talk about Westbrook maybe a little bit later, but Christian Brown, 3 for 5. Michael Porter Jr., 3 for 8. Peyton Watson made his only 3. They got those contributions from their other guys. Clippers didn't quite get that. Outside of the first quarter where we were up 26-21 after 1, we outscored them in the fourth quarter, but that's because the game was literally over by the fourth quarter. I never in a million years thought that this game would be a blowout. I thought for sure with the way the series had gone that it would be close. And we ended up getting absolutely destroyed. Game over by the fourth in a game 7 to a team that fired their coach with like 3 games left, 5 games left. I have to take my L on this one. You know what I'm saying? You guys in the comments can absolutely grill me. I was wrong. And you know what? I feel obligated to pick my team when I'm a host of this show and it's a 4-5 matchup. I probably would not have picked the Clippers if I wasn't a Clipper fan, just because I'm always going to go with the championship pedigree, always. But because of the matchup and because I'm a Clipper fan and, you know, I was trying to get behind the vibes, and I genuinely did think we'd win this series. I'm not trying to make excuses. I genuinely did think we'd win this series. But you just kind of see why. And I said bring me Denver, so I got to take the L completely. But you can just see why they're the better team, and that's because that core of Brown, MPJ, Aaron Gordon, Murray, and Jokic, their chemistry is just fantastic. Every single player on that court serves a purpose. Jokic is the engine, and I mean, count how many plays are not run through Jokic to some degree, whether it be him in the high post or him as the screener. Whereas we kind of have a little bit of an identity crisis because we only had our best player for 41 games or whatever it was, 37 games. James Harden, Ivica, Zubac was our bread and butter offense the whole way. In the beginning of the season, Norman Powell was such a catalyst. He was our leading scorer. And then it's Kawhi's team. And it just didn't feel like, you know, we started feeding Zubac late in the year, but then in the playoffs, we stopped feeding him the ball. It just felt like under adversity, they're champions together, you know? And Adelman's not like he just came off the street. Like, this guy was on their staff. And Jokic keeps emphasizing that. I mean, they showed their championship pedigree. You got Aaron Gordon in the dunker spot. He cleans up everything. He doesn't allow you to guard them the same way that, well, you know, actually, no, that's not true. I was going to say it doesn't allow them to load up on our guys. It doesn't allow us to load up on their guys the way that they do on us, but it does because we have Zubac in that dunker spot. They have Aaron Gordon. The difference is Jokic is a much better passer than Kawhi, and Aaron Gordon can go up and get it. I mean, Zubac is a great rebounder, but he cannot go up and get it like that. And then having MPJ and then the improved shooting of Christian Brown just gives them those spacers. And then Jamal Murray and Jokic just have that incredible synergy and pick and roll. So, again, we put ourselves in a rough situation to be in Game 7, but we held Jokic to 0 for 5 to start the game. Good shot contest, great help defense. Even Harden did a good job helping out. And we could see that they were doubling Kawhi regularly, throwing 2 on the ball with James Harden, trying to make those other guys beat them. And again, that was really the only good quarter we had because this was a 3-quarter game in a Game 7. In the second quarter, I thought we got incredibly careless. I could see that it was going to start. The avalanche, no pun intended, was going to start when it was a 7-0 run, I believe, to begin the quarter for the Nuggets without Joker in the game. So that's what made me pretty nervous. James Harden got just a 2-minute breather to start that second quarter and came right back in. But we were up 21-26. You know what I'm saying? Going into this second quarter, and then 7-0 run right away by Denver to begin that quarter. And then just before you know it, you know, Jokic is back in. But, I mean, not only were the role players just missing a bunch of open threes, we had so many careless turnovers in that second quarter, like Zubac in the backcourt, just throwing the ball away. James Harden, it wasn't turnovers, but twice he's trying to get a foul so bad. It's like, how many postseasons is it going to take to realize you're not going to get these calls? Because I'll talk about that a little bit more in the next segment with Harden and Kawhi, but there was just some real carelessness in that second quarter that set a bad tone. You know, lack of box outs from Kawhi, and then loose ball fouls, you know, against Aaron Gordon when we were over the limit. And, you know, all that being said, it was still a single-digit game going into the second half. But I mean, 47 to, sorry, it was 11-point game. It wasn't single digit. 47 to 58 at half after we were up 26-21. We got outscored 37-21 in the second and then 35-19 in the third. So if you want to go back to the tape, it's those 2 quarters right there. And in the third quarter, when we came out and got punched in the mouth, and 2 straight times down the floor, it was Kawhi Leonard and Ivica Zubac having miscommunications. I mean, I knew that and this was going to be going from bad to worse. But what really was disappointing is that after that initial timeout in the third quarter, when they threw that first punch and went on, that quick 7-2 run, we just folded. We gave up, like quit. And I think Kawhi didn't fully quit. He was trying a little to score towards the end of that third quarter. But when I rewatched the game and I saw Kawhi's lack of communication on defense, lack of boxing out, and ending the game with 13 shots, it was unacceptable. Ivica Zubac had his worst game of the series, but the general fight, the spirit of the team was broken. And I think a lot of that has to do with fatigue. And remember what I said before the series, and I was naive not to look further into it, and that's on me. I said the Clippers haven't had many games where they just stopped trying, but 2 of those games were in Denver. Clearly, the altitude, the mix of the age of our team got to us because they looked like they had nothing left in the beginning of the third quarter. And quite frankly, it was very unfair and a little disrespectful to the fans that Ballmer flew out to the game, many of which I know and have featured in my videos. If you're wondering why I didn't go, it's because I slept too long after uploading Game 6 pod like 4 a.m., and that's on me for my bad sleeping habits, and I missed the email and didn't get there in time. But I don't know. Should I be thankful? It was probably a once-in-a-lifetime experience anyways, but to lose like that when Ballmer did that for the fans, and I just think it was a very disgraceful effort. Games 5 and 7, they just didn't show up to play. And after a season where we were so good, our effort was so great on a nightly basis, to have game 7 decided by the end of the third quarter is quite frankly despicable. We lost 120-101. Coming up, going to be talking about the stars and how much blame Kawhi Leonard and James Harden should each shoulder, including Ivica Zubac. I got to tell you a little something about BetterHelp. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. The world has made a lot of progress when it comes to mental health, but there's still a long way to go. Too many people still avoid therapy because they're afraid of being judged. But the truth is, taking care of your mental health should be just as normal as going to the gym or eating healthy. This Mental Health Awareness Month, let's normalize getting help and encourage everyone to prioritize their well-being. Because when people feel supported, families, workplaces, and entire communities are better for it. You can easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost with BetterHelp. And with BetterHelp, getting started is easier than ever. It's fully online, has a network of over 30,000 licensed therapists, and you can switch therapists anytime at no extra cost. We are all better with help. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, Clippers losing Game 7, 120-101 against the Denver Nuggets in what was a very hard-fought series and a fairly disappointing ending, just given, through 3 games what this series was looking like and in the fashion in which we lost Game 4. It was an absolute rout. Now, in terms of the big boys, let's look at their performances. It's very clear that the Denver Nuggets strategy was to get the ball out of Kawhi's hands, to get the ball out of James Harden's hands. As a result, they each shot a combined 21 shots together. Kawhi Leonard was 6 for 13. James Harden was 2 for 8. On the other side, Nikola Jokic was 6 for 14. So actually one more shot taken than Kawhi, and he missed it. And Jamal Murray was 7 for 15. But 29 shots for them versus 21 for our best 2 players. And this is one thing that I just was wrong about in the series. They ended up having a better solution to guarding us than we had to guarding them. And that's where I was wrong. And we are a better defensive team than them. That's the thing. But I think our offense came back to bite us. And we did have a good offense towards the end of the season with Kawhi and with Bogey shooting the way that he did. But playoffs are a different game. Playoffs are a different game, and let's start with Kawhi. I mean, I thought generally his effort level wasn't bad. There is no excuse for, the fact that he struggled with Aaron Gordon at times on that low block on the boards. He didn't do a good enough job on the glass and defending on the interior, in my opinion. He didn't really guard Jamal Murray for many stretches at all. I mean, he didn't really guard good players in this series like that. And, he had some good moments in games 2 and 3 defensively, but to say that he had a great impact defensively, I don't know if any player in this series really had a great impact defensively. If we're looking at it, we didn't do a good enough job containing these guys. It's that simple. And it really exposes the lack of off-ball movement in the NBA, because when you put a team that moves without the ball against us and you really expose Norm and Harden and the lack of communication sometimes between Zubac and Kawhi, I mean, they exposed us in that regard as a defensive team. I mean, when you're a stagnant offense, pick and roll heavy, we do a pretty good job. But when you have a great pick and pop player and just all the counters that the Denver Nuggets have, it makes it very hard. As far as them, they doubled Kawhi, and we know Kawhi is not the best passer out of doubles. And I don't think it was a terrible series for him in terms of creating shots, but our role players didn't make threes, and that makes things hard for the stars as well. So, I mean, Derrick Jones Jr., 1 for 4 from 3. Norman Powell, 0 for 3 from 3. Nico, 1 for 3 from deep. Chris Dunn, 1 for 2. And Bogey, 1 for 5. And again, this goes back to role players on the road versus at home. Yes, they didn't play well enough, but we put them in this position. So when you look at Kawhi's performance in this game, no, it wasn't good enough. I mean, I know you're getting doubled. So what? You know what I'm saying? Go get the ball closer to the basket where you can just turn and shoot before the double comes. We saw moments like that in game 6. You know what I'm saying? It's just everything feels so hard for Kawhi. And I've been saying that for a couple of years now, mainly since I've been the host of this show. And he makes it look easy when he makes shots, but that doesn't mean that they are easy. He makes it look easy for him, but they're not easy shots. He doesn't get in the paint enough. I mean, he did shoot 9 free throws in this game, so I thought he was a little more aggressive, but it's not that aggression that we need. And I think throughout this season, we didn't establish, and because of the lack of games, we didn't establish that this is Kawhi's team. It was like, oh, what's our best offense? Is it Kawhi in isolation, or is it Harden Zubac pick and roll? Because the Harden Zubac pick and roll, they were just blitzing and forcing our other guys to beat them. And credit to Jokic, he did a much better job hedging on these ball screens as the series went on. He had a really solid defensive game in Game 7, so I'll give it to him. But if we make our open threes, that's not even a narrative. You know what I'm saying? We're still getting good looks. The problem is, in terms of Harden shooting, it's not even that he's not trying to shoot, in my opinion. It's that they're running him off the line and making him a passer, and his shot profile just isn't really diverse, and he doesn't have the athleticism and speed to just explode at the rim when he gets 2 feet in the paint the way he used to. So it's either floater/contested layup or step back 3. And when they're sitting on that step back, it forces him to pass, and his lack of any sort of other shot outside the paint and before the 3 is exposed. All his moves start behind the 3-point line, so you can run him off the line and force him to get downhill. There was one time where he got into his mid-range step back, and I liked it, but he just doesn't do it enough. And it really hurts him when it comes to these playoff games in his post-hamstring injury era, because even though he's the second source of offensive scoring and doesn't need to be relied on the same way, 7 points. I know he had 13 assists, which is good, and he could have had even more. But 7 points and 8 shot attempts in a do or die game, that's not going to cut it. That's not going to cut it. But I'm not. Here's the thing: everybody's been doing this thing like, who deserves more blame, Harden or Kawhi? Harden or Kawhi? It has to be Kawhi over the course of the series, just because the way I look at it is Harden had 4 good games, the 3 wins, and then game 1, and he was bad in the other 3. Kawhi was bad in game 1. He was excellent in game 2. He was good in game 3. In game 4, both Harden and Kawhi did not start playing till the fourth quarter. Game 6, they were both good. And game 7, Harden was bad and Kawhi was just decent. Just decent is not going to cut it, though. He needed to start gunning and working quicker off the catch. I mean, of course, these other players needed to make shots. But then it also goes back to this. Harden and Norman Powell playing together, that got exposed, especially with Norman Powell not being as great offensively as he had been all season. And I think a lot of that's the lack of reps with a healthy Kawhi. 9 points on 4 for 11 shooting and 0 for 3 from deep. The pecking order of who got shots and who got the ball and who got touches was so wonky. And not to mention that Kawhi and Harden are just stagnant offensively. And Ty Lue's offense with them is just stagnant. So it's not that super hard to guard when you can get the looks that you want. And Ivica Zubac had his worst game of the series. I don't care with that 10 and 14 stat line. His communication breakdowns in the third quarter were numerous. He could not score down low. We also just abandoned looking at him in the paint. Or in the post, I'm sorry. And it just felt like all the concerns and all the problems with this team all came to fruition. And for me to sit here and say that any of the stars deserve bail is ludicrous. Kawhi Leonard only had 2 assists, and that's partially on the guys making shots. But he's not quick enough with his decision making. He's not aggressive enough. How many times? I mean, there's no way in Game 7 with the Raptors, when he was a better version of himself, he's shooting 39 shots. Like, the defense was still loading up. They were still throwing some doubles at him. I mean, it's just, we look old. But when it comes to Harden and Kawhi, they look kind of old. And the Nuggets role players were better. Russell Westbrook was amazing. The emotion that he showed, by all means, he deserves it. He got replaced by Harden, so he's getting a little get back. But him shooting 41% in the series from 3, that is a lot of 42%. That's a lot of just how confident he's feeling. And you got to credit the Nuggets for that. This is the first organization he came into where he knew he would be a bench player. But in terms of the stars, I think the blame pie conversation is so hard because no one's willing to have honest conversations. But when you look at it, do you think that Kawhi Leonard looked like the number 1 option on a championship team in this series? I'd be lying if I said yes. Nothing comes easy enough for him. The standard for how well you have to play in order to beat a team like Denver without home court advantage has to be higher for him. He wasn't the deterrent defensively that he normally is consistently for 7 games. And as I said, nothing really comes easy as a team for us with him offensively. It's a lot of his contested mid-ranges, and they look amazing when they go, and he's not a galvanizer either. Like, who was going to say something when we were down? Because Harden, he took his tail between his legs and ran away and didn't even speak to post-game media, and I'm not surprised at any of that at all. That's the stuff that I was saying before we even got him. So, to me, with Harden, you knew he was going to have a stinker in Game 7. He gave you 4 good games. I just am realistic about Harden. People in this chat aren't, or people in the comments aren't because they're like delusional fanboys. But Clipper fans, I think a lot of us expected more from Kawhi, and I think I'm disappointed in him, but of course Harden. I personally am not that disappointed in Harden. I feel like I know who Harden is, but he wasn't good enough. No. But coming up, going to talk about the role players and the coach because they deserve some blame as well. I got to tell you a little something about Monarch money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery, and now I budget smarter and save more. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. All right, Clippers losing at 120 to 101. Just completely gave up in the third quarter of this game. It was pathetic effort all the way around. Kobe Brown outscored James Harden and Ivica Zubac and Norman Powell in this game in garbage time. Kobe Brown. Our stars weren't good enough, but neither were our role players, and it didn't make life easier for our stars. Based on the fact that he's not been a star yet, Ivica Zubac is a great role player, and guess what? He had a great series, but in Game 7, it was awful. No amount of tape could justify that performance. Or I'm sorry, tape will only just back up what I'm saying, I should say. There's no excuses for Zoo. And I'm his biggest fan. I'm one of his biggest fans, and he's my favorite player on the team. He was not good enough at all on either end of the floor. His communication on defense in that third quarter in transition was appalling. He and Kawhi were constantly involved in communication breakdowns. And that's where that's why I held Kawhi accountable. But Zoo was not good enough. Just didn't look strong enough with the ball. He had 3 turnovers. He's a center. So 10 and 14 doesn't do anything for me. Amazing season for Zoo. We can celebrate that all summer. But in the context of this game, he was bad. Norman Powell, he's a 6-man kind of player. We had him when he's in rhythm, when he's the guy getting 15 plus shots, he can average 20 points. But that team's not doing anything. We would have been a play-in team or a sweep or a 5-game series with Norman Powell being that guy that he was early in the season. He can't dribble the ball well enough. I mean, how many times did he dribble off his leg or off his body? He can't dribble the ball well enough. He doesn't pass well enough. He doesn't defend well enough. He's a 6-man kind of player. And I love the guy. But he has a movable contract, so we got to explore options. 9 points on 4 for 11 shooting and 0 for 3 from deep. He was nowhere near good enough in this series, and I put that partially down to the fact that he and Kawhi Leonard never got to experience what playing with each other at their best this season was. Whereas these other guys, the Nuggets, while they had a coaching change, it was 5 guys in Westbrook, really. You know what I'm saying? And those 5 guys know how to play with one another. They've won a ring together. Nico, I think he had a solid series. I'm not going to blame him, but he wasn't good enough in this game. We needed more shots made. 1 for 3 from deep just wasn't enough. 3 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks, no turnovers on 1 for 3 shooting. Look, Nico he's Nico. You know what I'm saying? He did his part for what it's worth, in my opinion. Bogdanovic, all things considered, I think he was very disappointing in the playoffs. 12 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, and 3 turnovers in this Game 7. He was 5 for 9 from the field, but he was just 1 for 5 from 3, and we needed better. Chris Dunn, I think he is who he was. He is who he is. He's not a great offensive player. I think Ty was married to him too much in the playoffs at times, and he got exposed for not being able to make open shots. While he did shoot 50% from 3, it was just so obvious the way the defense was playing him. He was 1 for 4 from the field in this game and finished with just 3 points in 16 minutes. Derrick Jones Jr., I think he was pretty solid, actually. 5 for 10 from the field, but 1 for 4 from 3, and nobody could stop Jamal Murray. So as good of defenders as they were, he was getting the shots that he wanted, and they were getting the looks that they wanted. So the role players weren't good enough. And then Ty Lue, I think in this game he should have started Nico just off rip, even though he played him 28 minutes. I don't think he had a horrible season. I think he had a good season. The coaching staff did, but this series, he was a little too married to Chris Dunn at times, and I said that all year long, that I'm afraid he might be a little too married to Chris Dunn. He's not going to make shots late. And then you have the Game 4, the questionable last play, the defensive personnel or lack of it on that last play and that lob, and then, not playing Amir Coffey at all when we were lacking shooting. He shot 40% from 3. I know he's a bad off-ball defender, and he probably would have gotten torched in that respect in this series, but he shot 40% from 3 and was a part of our season and just got completely, fizzled out in the playoffs, didn't play at all. And then, I'm grasping at straws a little bit with this. I think a lot of people just say buzzwords like rotation, the guys weren't motivated, but truthfully, the guys were motivated, I think, but our basketball character was weak in games 5 and 7 as players. You know what I'm saying? I think Kawhi Leonard and James Harden, you can't be leaders when one of you is skipping out on media and performs like that, and then the other one is just very quiet. And I usually defend Kawhi by saying, well, he's not quiet on the court. He was quiet on defense. He was at fault for miscommunications on D. You can see Zubac talking to him after plays. And Zubac is not exempt from that. It's usually a two-way street there with miscommunications on screens and whatnot or in transition. But no excuses. I'm not an excuse guy in life. And so I'm not, even though I borderline made some in the beginning of the pod. It's just what I'm saying is this. I'm going to be honest. I would never pick James Harden to beat a good team in the playoffs if I weren't a Clipper fan. I'm the host of this show, and I love the way we were playing, and I gave him my vote of confidence. And again, the same thing happened. But honestly, as I'm saying, I'm more disappointed in Kawhi than Harden because I know what Harden is in the playoffs. And I am not going to let any amount of idiots online try to sway me from that because these are the same delusional people that think this isn't going to happen year after year when they can't admit that their favorite player's shot profile isn't very diverse at this stage. When teams can force him to get rid of the ball, it's all reliant on his role players making shots, and then the cycle continues where they blame everyone else, even though you have to put great defenders and great shooters around Harden because he doesn't want to play off the ball. He thinks he's the greatest playmaker that has ever lived. And he does not play defense consistently. So you have to put good defenders and good shooters with him. And sometimes it's hard to find that right mix in addition to them being clutch. It's a lot to ask for role players. It's tough when your best player can't get, taking a high volume of shots is a skill, ladies and gentlemen, and a skill that Kawhi Leonard and this version of James Harden, I want to make it very clear that lack of shots was not a reason why Houston James Harden lost, except maybe game 6 against the Spurs in 2017. I think James Harden, there's different conversations to be had about those series. But it's been these last couple of years where he's just gone out sorry in the big game. And he played great in game 6, so I don't want to take that away from him. But I think running out of gas is a thing. But he also makes it hard the way he plays. He always has the ball. And how many possessions were so stagnant yesterday where it was just Harden dribbling it out and waiting so long to do something. And just Kawhi and Harden, it's just they're stagnant and it's slow. And you're not going to win a championship like that. Even if we had won this series, OKC, I think, would have embarrassed us. So the reason I said all that is to say that I did pick the Clippers. I own that I was wrong. I completely own it. I put my faith in James and I put my faith in Kawhi. They let me down. If you had told me the role players are going to miss open shots, I would have said, yeah, that might happen. They're role players. Zubac's had a good enough series. But I think Norman Powell, Kawhi Leonard, and James Harden got to really look at themselves in the mirror. And Ty Lue, and the uncomfortable truth is that Kawhi Leonard is probably not a number 1 on a championship team anymore, especially with how much you have to do to keep him healthy and all the loops and jump rope and hula hoops you have to do and get through to get him to the playoffs healthy. But here's my thing. The closure of having him walk off the court fully healthy in a series with fans makes me more at peace this season than last season where it was if Kawhi were healthy, and the season before where it was if Kawhi were healthy, and the season before that where he didn't play one game, and the season before that where he got injured against the Jazz, and the season before that where it was a bubble and we lost to these Denver Nuggets. So to that I say I'm at peace with this, and I've said my piece for this game. We basically quit, and that's not acceptable. But this Clipper team was a great team. They brought us a lot of good memories. James Harden busted his ass all season long, and I'm appreciative of that. Norman Powell had an amazing first half of the season. Zubac really put his name in different conversations this year. And I do think that the coaching staff has to look in the mirror a little bit with the series. You went up against the guy that just took the job and you lost. And Adelman seemed to have a better solution defensively than we had. But I also think when I'm just peeling back the layers more, I feel like it's less on the coach and more on the players themselves. Is it Ty Lue's fault that in the first 3 games, in game 4, the first 3 quarters, our stars just didn't look like they had urgency? I don't know. I don't think so. The Chris Dunn thing is valid, being married to Chris Dunn, and I know people are going to disagree with that. But again, if we're talking about the context of this game, I think you can't blame any one person more than maybe Harden, 2 for 8. Let me know in the comments, but it's collective. You know what I'm saying? I think you got just as many good games from Harden in this series as Kawhi. 4 good games, 3 not so great games. I thought Harden was great in game 1. He was great in the first 3 games, in my opinion. Games 4 and 5, not good. Game 6, awesome. Game 7, bad. So 4 good games, 3 bad ones. For Kawhi, bad in game 1, great in game 2, good in game 3, not good enough in game 4, not good enough in game 5, great in game 6, and decent in game 7. That's not good enough. Especially when Kawhi's making $20 more million than Harden. But we'll have a lot more to dissect in the season. It was just a disappointing ending, but I'm thankful for the season, and I'm thankful for all of you for listening. I know a lot of you will be not listening as much going forward because it's time for you to detox. But there's just going to be so much good conversation to be had because we can't just fit everything in a 34-minute show. And please make sure you subscribe to the channel, and because, for all things Clippers this offseason, it should be an interesting one. You can listen wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, where I was at the watch party, got instant reactions from the fans that were there about the season ending. And, of course, we'll be doing my end-of-the-year video where I tell all about everything. So please check that all out. And, of course, thank you so much for the journey this season, my 3rd full season in the books. And I am honored to do what I do for you. The age-old proverb continues, go Clippers. Love you, Clipper Nation.